Leanne and say, hi Leanne, this is Ken Grech, or hi, this is Stewart. This is Ken Grech. I work with Jesse Unsworth. I'm just calling to confirm his appointment with you on Saturday at 10 a.m. Is that okay? Yes, everything's fine. We'll look forward to meeting Jesse. Why would I do that? What happens when that happens? What do you think?
You're giving the idea that there's a team that you have.
Right. You're operating in a higher level. You have a team of people behind you. It's not just you. Have you ever had someone call you and say, hey, I work for such and such and they would like to meet with you for 10 minutes. When's a good time for you? That guy is someone important. You get that. I don't get that because it irritates me because I get them all the time. But people that don't know feel that way. They think you're operating. But here's the main reason why you want to do this, especially when you're going against other people, especially because you guys are new. When you have someone else confirming your appointment, they can't get on the phone and start talking to you about commissions, talking about, like, how much are you going to price this at? What do you think my house is worth? Because they don't want to meet with you. What if they already met with two people, and then now they're going, just tell me what it is. Tell me what the price is, or tell me what your spiel is. You don't want to be answering those questions. You haven't even seen your house. So when someone else confirms that, what are they going to say to you? You're not there. They're going to look forward to meeting with you. The other thing too, we have to figure out what's the objective here. What do you think the objective of this whole thing is? Well, most of you are going to say it's to take a listing. That's obviously what you think is going to happen. But that's not the case. Your objective should be, how can I service my clients the most effectively? How can I service my client the most effectively? Because if you're looking at it, how can I take a listing? You're going to take listings that aren't favorable to everyone, or you, or the seller. You're going to be desperate. You're not going to be informed of the situation because you haven't found out, you haven't discovered why they're selling the home. So you're more than likely to buckle on certain situations as far as pricing, as far as objectives, because you haven't discovered anything yet. So when someone says, look, I want 1.4 for my house, take it or leave it. You know, I want you to list it, but I won't take less than 1.4. You came in, you just sat down, you did this listing, and they tell you that. If you use the following steps that are going to come up in this conversation, you won't get that. Because they don't understand the consequences of it. But if you come in and you just say, I'm desperate for the listing, I'll take it, this is what's going to happen. You're going to take a listing that it's going to tarnish your relationship with your seller because it's going to be overpriced. It's also going to make you look bad because the house isn't going to sell. And it's strictly going to affect your personal life because you're going to be stressed out. And lastly, it's going to have a direct effect on your income. Because all you're going to be doing is being consumed on why this house isn't selling. Because that guy's calling you every 5 minutes. How come you didn't? Look at what happened with in Kelly's situation with the coworker, who are two real estate agents. You don't know, they had a falling out because his house wasn't selling. You don't want to be in that position because even though he might have not have cared because he's not even charging him a commission, don't you think that the fact that he let down his friend by not selling it or listing it properly, that it might affect his personal life? He's going to be stressed out. It's an uncomfortable thing to let someone down. You don't want to do that. Okay? So what we want to do is become professional listeners. I want you to become a professional listener. By listening, you become a partner. Listening gives you an understanding of your prospect's needs. Listening builds the relationship that will help you take a well-priced listing. Okay? Set yourself apart by doing this. Don't come in like every other agent going 0 to 60 and just talking about yourself in what I call a diarrhea of the mouth. I'm the best. You need it, and then you almost give them the perception that they're a fool if they don't use you. You have no clue why they're selling. You have no idea what's going on, and you're just not even doing anything right. So asking the right question is very, very important. If you ask the right question and you listen, the most amazing thing's going to happen. The seller's going to be convinced that you're the right agent for them because you're listening to them. How many of you have had a conversation with a friend or a loved one that actually is staring at you and listening to everything you're saying and taking it in, like I'm doing with you? I'm talking, but I'm making that connection. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not answering my phone. I'm not looking at notes. I'm not flipping down on a page. I'm talking to you. I'm having a conversation. And then as you get to be a professional later on, a higher level professional, your voice inflections will make a difference. Like I'm doing to you right now. It's empowering. It's more powerful as I start lowering my voice, raising my voice. It's a skill set. I don't even notice I'm doing it, but when I'm on a presentation, I try to do it. Sometimes I lower my voice like that, and it becomes non-threatening. But then when I want to point to get across, I say, "Listen to me, understand what I'm saying." I won't say it like that, but to my kid or whatever. So you need to listen to the person that you're meeting with. You want to, hold on a second, going on here. So before you go into this, after that, you're gonna make a decision on what kind of appointment you're going on. This is going off the track of it being a multiple situation. I'm just gonna tell you in a listing presentation, or what I call the conversation, there's a pivotal point that happens here. Again, if it was a referral, you know them, somebody you, like your friend, you can pretty much go to the place, meet, do your thing, and get the listing, okay? I like to do a two-step approach, especially if I'm going against other agents. So in this particular situation, I want to do a two-step approach. Why am I doing that? Because I want to make sure, especially if you're in an area that's eclectic, you don't understand exactly how the home is. It's different when you're listing a condo that's the same as the other condo and is the same as the other condo. But if you're going in a house that possibly is fully upgraded, that maybe has an entire entertainment yard, you have to give value to that. And you also have to get an understanding of what their needs are. So the whole point of this whole thing is to visually look at it, discover, and then I personally like to try to pull them out of that environment and bring them back to my office. My second appointment will usually be come to my office, and then I'm able to have all my marketing set up, all my stuff in my environment. I will tell you that doesn't really work when you're going against 4 other agents. They're not going to do that. You're gonna have to do it at the house. Okay, you can come back still, two-step approach, but it's going to be at the house. Does that make sense? You guys following me on that? So your first appointment is just to check out the house, discover what you're going to discover, and then come back.
Can I ask you a question?
Huh?
So the first appointment is to see the house, discover, and then you leave? And
Yes.
then you'll come back at a later date?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So as we get into the discovery questions, I want you guys to role play this, to try to role play it with someone who's not in real estate. Because the questions that are gonna be asked when you ask another agent, they're gonna give you pushback because they're real estate agents. And it's not the way a natural conversation would be. So I know it's hard to find someone like that, especially probably for you, Jesse, but if you can find a friend that's not related to real estate or anyone, your wife, anybody, excuse me, try to role play these questions, and then you'll get a feeling what it really feels like. It's going to be a natural conversation. That's what this whole thing is. It's a natural conversation. But if you're role playing with a partner on that you work with, we have a tendency of not really listening and not really giving you a reality answer or giving you pushback because we want to challenge you. But that's not really what's going to happen. So it works a little bit better if you can do both, work with your partners, but also try to find and role play with someone that's not a real estate agent. Okay, so this is pre-day showing up. This is for the first step inspection, okay? You always need to be there 5 minutes early. Don't ever be late. I get there even earlier. I don't want to be lost and then be late. So unless I know where I'm going, even if I'm usually 5 to 10, probably 10 to 15 minutes early. I'd rather sit in my car and roll through Facebook and be there. But I don't do it in front of the house. If I show up early, too early, I'm parked far away, a block away. When you pull up, you need to realize the minute you pull up, your presentation's on. Don't do your makeup, don't fix your tie, don't be eating a sandwich. Believe me, they're looking out the window waiting for you. And in today's day, like my wife has surveillance on her house, like she can tell me the mailman's coming and he's not even on our street yet. It's like, so believe me, they know you're there, okay? When you get out of your car, this is important. I'm telling you, the reason why I wrote all this down is because every little detail makes a difference. It's those small little things that you think aren't important that will make a difference. Whether it started with just a simple letter, and what I'm about to tell you, the next couple steps, are very, very, very important. So when you get out of the car, I want you to look at the house before you approach the door. It's okay to have a pad there. Let's say you have a briefcase, you have your pad. Write down and then walk from one side like that, and then walk like this, and then write something down. Because they're looking at you. And what are they assuming when you're doing that? Is that you're actually, because the next guy's going to come in and walk right by it and not do any of that. It's going to make a big difference. Even if you're not writing anything down, which you should write down the condition, write down something. But believe me, that person's going to remember that. This guy's actually checking out my house. This is the guy that dropped off that letter. You come to the door. The first question you're going to ask is,
Would you like for me to take off my shoes?
would you like for me to take off my shoes? I kid you not, and I swear to God, I just got a listing using that question 2 months ago, or maybe 4 now, close 2 months ago, 3 months ago now. I went to this guy. This guy was very religious, ex-military. I didn't know him. Literally got called off the internet, showed up. I was competing against actually a fellow friend, colleague. I didn't know. And I said that, and he says, wow, you are one cut above the other guy. I really respect that you asked me that. And he goes, I would have said the same thing if I was in your business. People don't do that anymore, and you're dressed up. He says, come on in. He goes, you're fine. I said, okay. I don't care what the house looks like. It's that person's domain. Have some respect. And especially in certain cultures. people will just walk right in, and it's really not okay. It's not okay. I mean, you can really, everything you're gonna say doesn't matter now, because all they're thinking about is that guy has his shoes on, and we never wear our shoes. That's all they're thinking. It's ridiculous. It sounds like such a dumb thing. I know I'm making a big deal over it. It's a big deal. So, first thing you want to say is, would you like me to take my shoes? My mentor taught me that. I thought it was stupid when he first told me. I'm telling you, that's how I got that listing. Based off of that. It started off everything well. It set me apart right off the bat. Okay. So, remember, when someone invites you to their house, you're a stranger. Nobody likes strangers in the house. It's an uncomfortable feeling. So they're already a little tense. They feel uncomfortable with the whole process. So now you're gonna come in. You've got your briefcase. They know it's business because you got your briefcase. You're dressed up. They're like, oh man, I know I gotta sell my house, but this is gonna be drag. I don't really want to go through all this. This is the stuff I didn't want to do. I just want to sell it. Don't you just have a buyer? Can't you just sell it? Some people think that way. Other people don't. Some people have a high tolerance for pain, which I call it, is showing your home sucks. It's an uncomfortable thing, having to always make up your house, having to get this. You guys haven't witnessed a regular market. 3 to 4 months is what we tell everybody on a listing appointment that it's going to take to sell your home. That's the average. That's what the norm is. That's why we have 6-month listings, is because it takes 3 months to sell it. So imagine, week after week, day after day, you have to clean up your house, you have to make your bed, you have to get kids ready, you have to leave, you have to get the dog ready, whatever that situation. She can't even show a 2-bedroom condo. The guy's freaking out. I gotta move the dog, I got my wife, I got this, not. It's like, it's uncomfortable. So you show up, they're feeling uncomfortable, you're all business. The next question is gonna be this. John and Mary, before we get started, may I ask the two of you to give me a tour of your home? And you're gonna set everything down. Is it okay if I place my stuff here? They're gonna go, yeah, that's fine. What happens when you say this? You're saying, before we get started. So now it's like, oh, this isn't a business arrangement. I can relax. We haven't even started yet. I just want to walk around. You guys understand that? Mm-hmm. So you're by putting your tools away and just going, hey, before we get started, would you mind showing me around? However you want to phrase it. I wrote it down this way, but you got to make it your own. Whatever's natural to you. Would you guys mind showing me around? Oh, great, sure, okay, go on. So a lot of you are going to want to write things down. You're going to want to take a pad as you're walking around and start writing. I used to think when I started that was the right move. A little mixed messaging on this. I actually was told to someone that they were impressed that I was writing things down because they showed that I cared. Mm-hmm. Okay? It's half dozen this, half dozen another. The problem is going to happen when you start writing down though, you're going to break the mood, and you're going to stop the natural flow of the conversation. So you don't want to do that.
Can I give a tip on that?
Yep.
So I learned that in law school, you have to take some insane notes, crazy amount of notes. You got to get good at shorthanding. So it's just keywords. You don't have to write every word that they say. Write the keywords down. You can keep the flow going, keep the conversation going. If you're taking notes, they see that you're paying attention. I get complimented more on taking notes than not, so I see what he's saying. But I can also, if you're just trying to write the whole thing out, it's going to slow it down tremendously and screw up your flow. You want to stay in that flow because it's about them getting comfortable. And that's the whole point of why you're touring and doing the discovery the way he's talking about.
So, as you go through, your main objective is to listen. And if you do it correctly, it's going to have a huge impact on everything else that goes forward as you move forward. Listen.
Any specific questions that you're hitting on that you know that you hit on as you go through the tour of the home?
They're going to come up.
Okay.
They're coming up right now. Now, can a seller talk about their house? Of course they can. They're going to share with you everything as you're walking through the house. They're going to start talking about when they bought the house, what they did to the house, what was important about this house. They're going to talk about Johnny's room. They're going to talk about Elizabeth, whatever, Diane's room, what used to be there, what's not there anymore, what they did. They're going to go on and on and on. And you need to pay attention to everything that they said they upgraded in that home. You have to listen and keep it in your head. You're not writing it down, so you gotta listen. You gotta pay attention. The other thing you're doing when you're walking in there, I'm scanning the room. When they're talking to me, I'm paying attention, but I'm also looking at the condition. I'm looking at why the price that I'm going to come up with when they meet with me again might be different based on the condition. The bathroom's upgraded, flooring is ripped, whatever. And I'm paying attention. Third thing I'm paying attention to are going to be the pictures, memorabilia, flags. I want to understand if the person is a veteran, if the person's a cop, fireman, whatever, because I want to find some commonality that I have or share with them next time I meet with them. Or I'll understand what kind of person they are based on that. So there's a lot going on right there. That's why this level, this is why you'll get 90% of these listing presentations. Because you're not just going in there and you're not just flipping through a book, you're going through, you're acting like a professional. And you're listening and you're going to ask discovery questions. Okay. You need to do this without losing focus. You have to pay attention to what's going on. Now they're going to show you a couple rooms. They're going to tell you about the Marriott subject. Now you're going to ask question number 3. Can I ask you how it feels to be selling your home? You say, John, Mary, can I ask you, how does it feel to be selling your home? Again, however you want to pose that question. I'll usually ask the wife first because the wife is more emotionally tied to the home 90% of the time. I'll ask the wife first. If I feel that the husband is more the emotional person to have, it's like sometimes you look and you'll see the wife like, the guys, you can just tell he's the one that's going to share more. I'll lean towards that. So that's who you want to ask first, is who you feel is going to share with you the most. And they're going to start sharing memories. They're going to share with you, I love this home. I had a lot of great memories here. Matter of fact, I raised my kids here. So it is a bittersweet thing. We do need another home though. We've outgrown it, but it's going to kill me when I leave here. The kids are, I raised my family here. Okay. And then you're going to say, John, what about you? Well, I'm with my wife. I'm not that attached to it. I'm ready to move on. I need a bigger home. Okay, listening. So they're going to tell you everything about the house. Hold on a second. So they're going to be sharing with you everything that they experienced in that home. But, oh man, listen, oh, I skipped that. Never mind. I'm on the wrong question. Sorry about that. I told you I wrote this down. I'm losing track of why I'm reading that again. Okay. Anyway, once they share with that, you're gonna go to question number 4. Right? So can I ask you, after you ask them, how does it feel to be selling this house? You're gonna ask them question number 4. Sometimes number 3 will give you number 4, but the question's gonna be, why are you selling your home? Can I ask you, why are you selling your home? And they're gonna tell you. So, in here, I wrote down, well, I had a class on these questions, but a lot of times we didn't understand what we were trying to get by asking these questions. So, when you ask the question, like, Joe, Mary, how does it feel to be selling your home? What am I trying to pick up from that? You're trying to pick up their attachments. I want you to write this stuff down. When you ask that question, how does it feel to be selling this home? In your head, you're trying to pick up what's attaching them to this home. The other thing you want to pick up on is the stress level. Is this going to be a massively stressful event for them? Well, how does it feel? Well, it's horrible. I have to move, but I don't want to. My husband lost his job. It's not always a rosy picture. But all these questions are going to give you answers on how to present your presentation. It's also going to give you their concerns. Write down concerns. What's their motivation? Why are they selling? You also want to pick up on past experiences. They might share with you, what they've done in the past. You say, how does it feel to be selling your home? Well, last time it was horrible, and I don't want to go through that again. But I want to do it and understand what not to do again. So understand that. Okay. All right.
Could I ask you a question?
Yep.
If you know going into it that maybe it's like a divorce, do you tailor your questions a little differently since you kind of already know there might be tension there?
Well, you can still go. It's a loaded question. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to feel the vibe of the room.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people are still amicable,
Okay.
and they're fine, and you can say, oh, you can be more tactful. You probably don't want to get into too many memories if you're going into that kind of stuff. But you can say, you probably want to rearrange your questions based on a divorce situation. I would say that. This is more of a family situation, but if you know that it's a divorce, I would probably be way more sensitive. And then you also need to pick up, because I've been put in that position many of times. You got to figure out if they hate each other or if they're actually working together. And if they don't like each other, you have to say, well, this is going to be in the best interest. We can, you try to figure out what the motivation as far as timing is. Like a lot of times that the husband doesn't want to get a divorce. The wife does, or vice versa. And they're like, I'm not selling it unless I get this. Some unrealistic, he's sabotaging it. So then you're gonna go and the wife's like, honey, it's not realistic. I just want it, and she wants out because she's already got a boyfriend or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's like, you will run into some awkward, weird situations. Some of that stuff you're gonna have to do on the fly. You're gonna have to adjust.
Would you ever meet with them separately? They really hate each other?
There's times they'll most of the time, they're gonna ask for that.
Yeah.
They're not usually in the same room.
Yeah.
And there's also times they'll meet where the attorneys are involved. I've met 2 times it's happened to me where I've met with the husband's attorney and the wife's attorney with them there. But the majority of the time, it's one person making the decision and then you gotta convince the other person to sign it. It's usually one person that's already flown the coop. I will tell you this, it's not always the case, but what I've found in my experience, guys can let things go. They'll pretty much give the wife everything. They just want it to be over. And it's usually the wife that will want more detail involved. But the husband's like, she can have everything. I'm just done. I'm done. I don't care if she hasn't. everything. Should take everything. I'm willing to start over. I don't know psychologically if it tends to be where the man in the past in history has been more the provider, so they know they can get up on their feet quicker, and the woman is feeling a little insecure because now she has to be the main provider, and she's afraid of that. I don't know the psychology behind it, because it's in today's time it's vice versa. You know, it's obviously sometimes the woman is the bread maker and the husband's not. But you're gonna have to figure all that out. I don't want to get into too much detail about it, but it's a great question. And I want to focus just on this because I want you just to get an idea of what kind of questions we're asking here. This is a 3-part class. This is a really boring, heavy class, but it's meant to understand what people are thinking and the discovery behind it. Okay, so now pay attention here. What's happened here? You've come in, you're asking these questions, and they're building this connection with you. Okay? The questions are ambiguous. There's really they're not threatening to them. And they're going to give you a natural flow of what's happened to them. They're going to answer you without any pushback because it's a conversation. And they're going to open up to you, and they're going to share their memories, they're going to share their feelings. Believe me, that's connecting you in a way that other things don't, and other agents are not connecting. Because let's put this in perspective. Let's say you came in and didn't use this approach, and you wanted to come in and do your listing presentation, not the conversation. You come in and say, John, Mary, would you mind sitting at this desk? Sure. Sit down. Why are you moving? How does it feel to be selling your house? They don't even know you, right? They're thinking this, caution, salesperson. Why is he asking me that? If I answer that, I'm going to give away the farm. All these red flags and barriers are going to come up. But when you're having a conversation and understand their needs, they're giving you the answers to the next appointment on how to move forward and how to present it. You know? So, Brenda, you want to add to those questions and discovery? Why don't you add some other discovery questions and what we're looking for?
Yeah.
The reason for that.
Well, actually, I was going to ask you a few more just in terms of why you stick with those particular questions, but you explain the main reasons of what you're trying to accomplish. So typically on your presentation or your conversation, you're going to do this while you're touring the house, correct?
Yes.
So you're going to say, before we get started and put all your stuff down, would you mind showing me the place? Or, touring the home. Then as we go through it, you're noting things, asking questions, and then you're going to casually ask the question, can I ask you how it feels to be selling your home? Is that correct?
Yes.
As you're going through the place.
Right.
Okay. So I haven't done that, at least with these specific questions. And I was a little, when you first brought up, can I ask you how it feels to be selling your home? The very first thing I'm thinking, just off the recent situation we went with, she's very overwhelmed, very stressed. And I can see a lot of people saying that because it's one of the top 5 most stressful things that they go through. So they don't know what they don't know. They're very concerned about a lot of things, but I like that you're already opening that conversation up because now they're just, it's like, calling a spade and just throwing the elephant on the table, and it's like, all right, let's talk about this. We get this is kind of an awkward, uncomfortable process. But share with me how you feel. Would you say 9 times out of 10 they're typically going that route, or are you seeing like 50-50 where they're like, we're so excited to be selling our place and to have you over here right now?
It can be 50-50.
Okay, you've seen it about both
especially in the
ways.
past few years.
Right.
Everything's been rosy.
Right.
It's always about the better thing on the other end
Mm-hmm.
because everything's worth a lot. You guys haven't experienced down markets and reasons to sell because of job loss. Everybody's working.
Right.
You haven't experienced, foreclosures. You haven't experienced short sales. You haven't experienced. These are generally like by choice. I made a decision. I want to move to Utah. The family has collectively decided. I went there. I showed them the water slides, and they're happy.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. It's a more pleasurable experience. But the point of this whole thing is that you're becoming likable. People start sharing with you because you care. It shows that you care. You're asking a question that's sincere. And it's the normal, like, how are you doing today? Fine, how are you? But they're gonna give you an answer. And it's gonna be normal, because it's a conversation. But if you sit down there and start flipping pages and start asking these questions, not only does it sound robotic, they will not share with you the right, and they will not divulge the right answer. They're gonna give you a highlight because you're putting them on the spot. Because what's the difference? One is like, you're asking me point blank. The other one is, I just shared with you everything about my house, and it's bringing up fond memories. That's why I asked that question. And they're talking about this, and they're talking about that, and they're talking about this. They're in a better place because now the love of the home. I'm going to give you guys another connection to this that I didn't realize this to later, and I hope you never have to go through this. The mother of my older daughter is not the mother of my younger daughter. And about 4 years ago, she was killed on a bike. And having to see having to see your daughter post things on Christmas about the loss of their mother, and every holiday and every other thing is pretty cool. So I had to step in to be a bigger father figure into my daughter's life. Well, the crazy part was when my ex and I separated, at first it was horrible. She took my kid, moved to Washington, and I couldn't get her back. And I had to commute. She got married. I was going to their house. We were amicable because of our kids. But I put up this barrier and became very cold. And I felt like I didn't love that person anymore at all. Because you do that. You move on, you get this, and you put this wall up. Well, when she passed away, I thought it would be nice to give my daughter memories that I had, videotapes. So I'm watching these tapes of us in love. And I'm going, holy crap, like why was I so mad? Like why was I loved that person. And it was so stupid. All those years of holding this grudge, whether it's your father, your parents, or a loved one, you don't realize how stupid we are as humans. We just put up, we don't, I don't know what it is, but I know this is off the beaten path, but when someone starts sharing with you, probably the most precious thing besides, as far as a tangible item, their home, it's not just a home. It's not a stock. There's a lot of memories in that house. So when you tap into that, as a human, not an agent, as someone who's listening and caring and being empathetic to their situation, that's what's going to seal the deal. People ask me, how do you do that? How do you get that listening? How do you're not that sharp, you're not that whatever. I've heard every insult there is. They're baffled that I'll go in. This is my farm, this is that. How did you do that? Did you tell them I was a crappy person? Everything there is. And all I did was have a conversation with them. I don't pull this out and start reading it. I'm just taking my memories and I put them on paper, and I'm trying to tell you guys the experience of the feeling of it and what makes that bond work. So, yeah, I asked those questions. Those questions weren't just made up because it's a computer made it up. Those came from other people sharing their memories of what worked for them. So that's why you keep seeing the same questions, because people have used those questions and they have gotten contracts signed or agreements signed. They work. So you're going to hear George, you're going to hear John, you're going to hear Brandon. However they do this whole thing, the same questions are going to come up. But how you deliver them is what's different. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Did that story make you see the correlation of what I was talking about when I started sharing that about my wife? is when they start sharing that, it wasn't my wife, it was we were already married, but when someone starts opening up and sharing, because I guarantee you, how many of you have sold, you're too young, but a lot of, when you start selling some homes and you've had kids, you're gonna get choked up. You're gonna feel some connection to that house. I have my kid, my son still drives to the old house. It's not even close to being as nice as my new house, and looks over the wall and climbs around to try to rekindle the memories he had there. How many of you have driven back to your old neighborhood where you grew up? You ever done that?
Yeah.
Why do you do that? Because you had fun memories there. If you can tap into that kind of stuff, you're gonna be golden. You're gonna separate yourself beyond all this stuff is crap unless you deliver it that way sincerely. So, all right. Any other questions, Ann?
The other questions, I want to test you, Leanna. Do you know what are the first two questions that I typically start off when I'm teaching it or when I'm actually in a presentation? Do you remember what the first two? And
Like
what
your main ones?
Yeah.
What are you looking for in the agent? What are you seeking in the agent you're looking to hire?
That's very close. So what are your expectations in the agent that you look to hire? That one's gold. It's big. You have to do it in a pre-qual. If you're competing against other agents, once I picked it up, started using, it just gave me the information I was looking for. What's the other question? You
Okay, I
don't
want
know
to
that
stop
one.
you
You don't
right
need to
there.
write that. Yeah,
It's actually important
Okay.
because why do you think he's asking that question? Laura?
To see what's important to them so that you can fulfill their expectations.
Okay, and maybe what not to do, right?
Right.
Okay, but here's the other thing. You don't want to say, I don't do that, when they're telling you those answers.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're saying, this other guy, he literally never showed my house, never did an open house. You cannot start burying the other agent because they're going to turn that around is that you're just not the right agent. You're talking
Poor character.
poor character as a person. You don't want to do that. But here's what happens. Later on, when you go back to the presentation and you start telling them things that you do, that they told you, they forgot that they shared that with you. But you didn't. You know what, I just want you to know, I always do this, I always do that, I always that. And they're gonna go, I like that. I like that guy. So go ahead.
So no, I was gonna say, so as you're asking these questions, there's something that I haven't spoken to you about, but I want to add it to your training curriculum is mediation training. And has anybody gone through mediation in here? So have you heard of mediation?
Mm-hmm.
You know what it is? Have an idea? It's usually something legally required. It teaches you how to listen. It teaches you how to ask questions, and you can't negotiate. We want to negotiate, especially coming from the real estate background. So there's a dispute, somebody wants 10,000, others 0, and you have to ask questions to get them to self-discover and to, between the two of them, come to an agreement. Well, those skills, not only is it important to understand how mediation works, but I'm telling you, it's going to take your game to a whole nother level with real estate. It's so applicable to everything that Ken's trying to teach right now about your ability to ask questions and listen, but it's more than just asking a question and listening. How deep do you get with that particular question? And then what do? Do you try to answer, like, once you see the connection, do you spend your whole time trying to just focus on that one topic, or do you keep discovering? Does that make sense? There's two big major differences. So you can't just skip to the next question and just go to this question, this question, this question. There's a way in which it happens, but in terms of the emotional connection that Kim was talking about, that's the gold. So if you can tap into that, now you are as strong of a connection as you can, and then you just want to start going through it. And when you feel that good, not only are you starting off on the right foot, that whole presentation is going exactly how you want it to go, and now your probabilities of taking the lesson are going through the roof. But the other thing is sometimes, because we have this presentation down, we want to go through the entire presentation, and that's not necessary either.
Yeah, it's exactly the
So
point.
it's understanding kind of the nuances of it. That's part of what I wanted to talk about here with the questions that you're setting up, because they're awesome questions, and I like how you brought up the reasoning behind it, because that's the part that it's hard. I was trying to figure out, like, why do we want them going down, this is a stressful situation? But one of my first questions is usually, what do you see as being the biggest challenge in selling your home? So I'll ask them that question. That's a newer one, especially even in a hot market. I want them to admit that every agent isn't the same, and that you're gonna have challenges. So I want them to disclose to me. I want them to know this is not a simple process. It's a very complex process, and you need a professional with you. So what challenges do you foresee? I don't see anything. This place is perfect. That's great. And then we'll walk around and say, oh, with the roof, any leaks, issues that you've had with plumbing, anything like that? And we'll talk about it as we're going through the house.
Yeah, you know, when I'm going through this right now, it seems like it goes on forever, and you think, how can I ever do that? It's not going to be that way, because it's just a conversation. We're breaking it down and stopping it, but I will tell you, there's many of times you're going through and just having this conversation, and they're like, you know, I'm ready to go. Like, I don't need to meet with you. I'm good. You're the right guy.
Yep.
Or girl. It happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing you can do, and I've been in a situation, you realize it, where you're trying to push through this presentation. They don't need it. They're just like, Ken, I trust you. Just let me sign. You know, they're ready to go.
That was my situation.
Yeah, and
I asked
they don't want to hear all that stuff. So you don't need to go through it if they're sold. So here, this brings up a really important, very important thing. Do not make the mistake of going through your first preview showing without your listing agreement and all your materials. So your materials are going to be like your marketing and the listing presentation and comps, CMA. At least bring that. You know, I'm not saying you need to, but if they might just say, hey, you know what, just let's get down to it. Bring it. The other thing is super important. Don't do this the day of your presentation or preview even. You know how many times the printers don't work here? You're freaking out. You're going to this appointment, and the last thing, your focus should be on the seller instead of on the printer. So a professional is prepared. Professional has everything binded, looking sharp, and letterhead. No, it needs to be on letterhead. It needs to be written well. It needs to be presented well. When you drop things off, when you show up, you need to be prepared, and you need to feel comfortable and relaxed when you're going into this presentation. So did we get to question number 5?
No.
Okay, so question number 5 is going to be, John, Mary, what effects does this move have on your family? And here's where you're going to have to probe. You're going to say, John, Mary, what effects does this move have on your family? When you ask this, you might have to, the people are going to look a little confused. You're going to say, what does that mean? You're going to say, well, what effects is it going to have on your 17-year-old daughter as far as this move? She's not happy. You know, she wants to move during the summer because she doesn't want to move during while the school year is already begun. She's going to feel awkward and uncomfortable with that. She wants to finish off the year, but she wants to move before the other year starts. Okay. What about your 10-year-old son, Johnny? What effects is it going to have in his life? He doesn't care. He's already ready to join the soccer club over there. He's been checking it out. He's excited. And John, what about you? What effects will this have on you? Because, well, you know, I have a really good position that I'm going to, and it's going to be a $50,000 bonus for me to be there. So I have a big incentive. Okay, that's interesting. Mary, can you share with me how you feel? She says, well, you know, I don't really work right now, and I'm pretty comfortable. We're settled in here, but I can see it's a great opportunity for John, and I'm okay with making this move. I said, okay, I understand. I understand how that feels. You want to acknowledge them, even when they're sharing with you. Like, how's it feel? How's your 17-year-old daughter feel? And she tells that story. You say, well, yeah, I get it. That must be tough. Whatever you want to say, you have to acknowledge and be empathetic to the situation. I sometimes will share stories at this point, like because I've been through it. Say, yeah, you know, and I actually, when we sold our last home, my wife and kids are so attached. But I'll tell you, once we moved out, it took a while, but I would never go back. Our house is great. The people, we love it. The kids, they don't even think about the other house. And I try to lessen the blow that way. Sometimes I'll share personal experiences on things like that. Okay, let's keep going. Why are you doing this stuff? Why? What's the point of that question? You're trying to determine the motivation and timing. You know, timing sometimes equals money. The urgency. Trying to pick up urgency. Urgency equals pricing sometimes. And how can I structure this so I can address their concerns? How can I justify the move or put away their fears? Okay? John Mary, number 6. When would you like to be in your new location? The seller replies, I'm in no rush. That's a big red flag. You know? Okay. Yeah, no problem. What time is it?
Sending the recording.
If you say, when would you like to be in your new house? And they say, I'm not in a rush. That's a big red flag. Why is that a big red flag, Jesse?
There's no urgency, no real motivation.
No real motivation, no urgency. So you're probably gonna deal with having to deal with a guy who's gonna wanna price a house too high. If they say, look, I wanna be there next month. Okay, tell them that. So I'm gonna try to get through a couple of these questions and figure out. So I know it's a bit much, so I'm gonna try to get through the next one. Question number 7. What do you think the consequences would be of your home if your home didn't sell within 6 months or longer? Now a lot of you think, why would I ask that? Why would I put that fear into their head? Trust me, you want to try to freak them out a little bit if it didn't sell, because now they're going to understand the consequences. So that's why consequences equals pricing. Because if someone goes through and tells you, and they share with you what the consequences are, and they say it would affect this, it would affect that, it would do this, it would do that, my kid, my this, my whatever, that's worth a lot of money, relieving them of those consequences, right? So when it gets down to the point where you start talking about pricing, this is strictly related to that. So when you say, how long, what happened if it didn't sell within 6 months? Now, you've separated it. Now you've taken the ego out of it. And now you're correlating time with consequences, pricing and consequences. Good. So the powerful thing is that now you're connected pricing with time. You understand what that means. Again, seller is not always looking for the highest sales price. Once that they have a clear understanding of the consequences, how many of you have paid $10 to $15 for shipping because you wanted something that day? How many of you have expedited your passports or paid extra for that? Timing and pricing and consequences they all correlate. So you want to try to give them a sense that if I price it too high, here's the consequences. All right? Let's end on that. I'm not going to go through on more of that part. We'll end on that part, and then we'll start talking about other parts on that aspect of it. So I want to touch base on. Let's take a break real quick. Let's take a quick water break, body break, and then we'll just finish up.